I think it'd be interesting, even if it was not necessarily, because I know a little bit about the product, like
Yeah.
if you could share like what inspired you to
Yeah.
create it.
All right. So I will try to keep it short because this is one I could go deep on because I've kind of geeked out on this for a long time. So like for 30 years, I was a biohacker way before that term existed. I've literally spent hundreds of thousands of dollars just exploring, honestly, like some wacky health stuff. I've tried a bunch of stuff. I found what works. I like to think I'm I'm climbing at an elite level. I'm not saying that to brag, but I'm 54, climbing at an elite level. Most of the people I climb with are in their 20s. So I feel like I figured a few things out. One thing that is, independent of this, that's just happening out there is we've got this like silent epidemic happening among men where testosterone levels have fallen off a cliff. And what's alarming is we've always known that T levels kind of fall off a cliff when you get to your mid 40s, right? It's like natural. What's happening now is T levels are falling off a cliff for young men. In fact, they're never, like some men are never even achieving healthy levels in their whole life. And we could spend an hour talking about all the many reasons for that. There are like a lot of obvious reasons for that. But the reality is, it's having a huge impact on men's health and honestly, like on society. Like a man with low T is a different animal than a man with a healthy T level. And, for years, like when people talk about testosterone or steroids or whatever, what they imagine is like the bodybuilding crew, like who are taking like massive doses of all this stuff. Like they take these cocktails. That's not what testosterone replacement is about. Testosterone replacement done right is literally just about restoring a healthy level of testosterone so that you function as a normal male. And, the symptoms of testosterone deficiency are devastating. It's like low energy, low drive, lack of mental clarity, low libido, erectile dysfunction, bad skin quality, on and on and on and on. And it happens so slowly. And if you've never even had healthy T levels, you may not even know what it feels like to feel like a normal male. All right. So fast forward, for me, I noticed that my T levels, because I've tracked my blood levels for a bunch of things every 6 months for like over a decade. And I did notice like mid 40s, my T levels started going down, which is not, a surprise. It went from like 900 to 700 to 500 to 400. And I started experiencing the symptoms. And so I started like after trying everything under the sun to raise my level naturally, which is a whole discussion in itself.
Yeah, for sure.
I eventually got on testosterone replacement and, the results were immediate and life-changing. Like if you've got low T levels and symptoms, it will change your life like in 3 weeks. And that was about 3 years ago. I tried, as I always do, I tried every form of testosterone replacement therapy, pellets, creams, injections, everything. And I made myself an expert. And so I'm getting to the service, I promise. But where I landed, eventually I figured out that like the protocol that most men are on for testosterone replacement is like 50 years old and it hasn't changed. It's horrifically outdated. And so I ended up with my doctor. We ended up on a protocol that I call testosterone microdosing. And what it means is typically if you're taking testosterone, especially if let's just talk about injections for a second. You're taking 1 or 2 injections a week of a pretty large dose. If you think about the way that works, what it does is it spikes your T level and then it slowly comes down over the next week. Well, that's not how the body works. The natural body produces testosterone an hour before you wake up every day. It pulses it. And so common sense would tell you that it makes sense to do tiny doses of testosterone every morning to pulse it just like the body does. When I tried that personally, I was already on TRT and I noticed an immediate huge difference. I was able to drop my dose by like 40% because it was so much more effective and I just felt better. The second thing is if you're doing injectable testosterone, which is the most effective mechanism, the medicine that you get from your pharmacist, the base oil that the testosterone is mixed in that you inject is typically cottonseed oil, which is a toxic seed oil. Seed oils are a big deal.
You don't want that.
Right. And so, but guess what? That's what everybody is on. We worked with a compounding pharmacy to compound testosterone in MCT oil, which if you know what MCT oil is, it's a healthy oil derived from coconut, it's a form of coconut oil. Again, I noticed an immediate difference when I did. The inflammation went way down. It's an anti-inflammatory oil versus an inflammatory oil. And so all that, to wrap all that up, I said, gee, I bet there's a lot of men out there who would love to do this. And they're not like me where they're crazy enough to go create their own protocol, but they want to be on like the best protocol available. And so I've partnered with a doctor, and we're in the midst of building out a service that's completely turnkey. Basically, like, we test you. You meet with a world-class, not some schmucky telehealth doctor. You meet with a world-class, like one of the leading doctors in regenerative medicine, who's overseeing the whole protocol. If you have the symptoms and if you have low T levels, we ship you a turnkey box with everything you need to get started. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention also, most men who are on testosterone injections are doing intramuscular injections, which are quite invasive, quite painful. That's super outdated. Like, subcutaneous is just as effective, if not more, way easier, way less invasive, and you could get to use a little insulin needle.
And explain subcutaneous instead of muscle.
Subcutaneous just means under the skin. So if you ever seen someone with diabetes do an insulin injection, they'll pinch their skin and put this like microscopic needle in. We literally use those exact needles for the testosterone microdosing. You're injecting, by the way, a daily quantity with microdosing of like 2 drops. It's such a small quantity, but by pulsing it every day, it's really effective. So we're creating a turnkey service to make it easy to basically access a protocol that essentially doesn't exist out there. And we didn't invent anything new. Like, all this stuff is proven. It's like, it's bringing together the best of like, what service would I want to be doing this? And there's like mass market services out there like Hims and Roe, and those, they're crushing it, but they're not providing the level of medical care that I would want. They don't offer the protocol that I would want. And so we're building it. And our aspiration is not to create $1 billion business unless it happens by accident. We want to have like a few hundred or a couple thousand guys who are really bought into this lifestyle, because really TRT is only part of it. There's a bunch of other things that you need to be thinking about if you want to have optimal health into your 50s and beyond. So you probably regret asking me that question now, because that was a super long-winded answer. But
it's very interesting. A couple things that I take away. One, I did not have any idea that people were injecting cottonseed oil. That is shocking to me.
Yeah.
Just knowing how much I have friends who are on TRT who purposely avoid seed oils.
Yep.
And then inject seed oils.
Yep. Injecting it, which is more work than eating it, by the way. Yeah.
It's crazy. And then the other part that I think find interesting about testosterone and like this whole concept of, men as you age, and the like mental health aspect of some of the changes that your body goes through, and low testosterone, right? And whether the question I have, it's, which comes first, right? What is it? And it's often, I think, there's mental health challenges people are facing that actually are physical symptoms of low testosterone. And how do you solve that without going down? I mean, to your point, like, you did so many different things to get to this point.
Yeah.
Most people either it's like, well, go to therapy or try to solve this with some supplement. It's very interesting. And I worry about, honestly, men in our society continuing over the next 20 years, continue to have mental health issues. Look at the suicide rate is so 100%. High.
So depression is not a problem in itself. Anxiety, those are symptoms of underlying problems. And for men, it is low testosterone. I'd say, like, of the dozens and dozens of guys I know and have talked to who've gotten on TRT, depression and anxiety pretty much goes away for all of them. But that's not even the biggest benefit. Like, the biggest benefit I saw, and others have said the same thing, is the mental clarity. It's like, if you've seen that movie Limitless, where Bradley Cooper takes that pill That's honestly like what it feels like. And you kind of end up feeling sorry for people who can't keep up with how fast you're thinking, especially like older guys. And I will tell you, depression, anxiety are rampant among millennials. I'm guessing you guys are millennials. And you look at even the build of a lot of millennials, they're what's called an ectomorph build, where you can tell they've got low T. You can just look at them and their whole build suggests that they've never had a healthy testosterone level. So of course they feel miserable. They have gut issues. They have depression, anxiety. And look, I'm not saying testosterone is a panacea, but it sure as heck is the closest thing we have. Like, I've looked at everything, and the biggest bang for the buck in men's health, and nothing else is even close, is testosterone if you have low levels and symptoms. Like, some guys, remarkably, are still have really high levels. Like, I know guys even in their mid 40s who are still running like 900 to 1,000. They're genetic anomalies that they're still running that hot. But most men these days, by the time they get even early 40s, they're starting to have symptoms and their levels are low, which, by the way, low levels is not, indicated by being outside of the lab range. The lab range has shifted over the years because men's testosterone levels have gone down.
Sure. That's what your point about saving testing your blood every 6 months, right?
Totally.
You want to get, this is something that I learned. You want to get a baseline when you're younger so that you know where your baseline is so that you can kind of match towards that rather than, to your point, if everyone's coming down, the ranges are just going to come down and then you're going to just...
Yeah, I'm going to vastly oversimplify it here, but it's pretty directionally accurate. If your T level is below 500 or even like 600, now there are other blood markers you need to look at as well for all you geeks out there and doctors. But as a general rule, like if your total T level is below 500 or even 600 and you're having symptoms, you would feel completely different taking your level up to 900 or 1,000. Like, it would be a night and day difference.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, one of the things that I've noticed in all the testosterone topics, I mean, I could go down a rabbit hole just like you could, but it's like a shift in the way that especially millennials think with everything in their life. I'm talking about how aggressive or confident they are in business,
100%.
that the lead they take in a relationship, the ability for them to go up and talk to a girl if they have confidence or not. It's all related. And there's like it's kind of scary, like with their direction we're headed.
A man with low T is a completely different animal than a man with healthy T. And in all the good and bad ways, like, you're just more masculine, right? Like, so you are more aggressive.
But that's a good thing. I think that's been kind of demonized. And I think you could point to a lot of things in society that have gone downhill over the past decade or so because of that. But what I wanted to lead that into was back to business and your career path. I think it's, like you said, it's tempting to think of testosterone as like you're getting roided out and you got these huge muscles. But do you think that's an important part to moving forward when you're getting older for success in business and doing deals, is being confident of what direction to take and where to be aggressive and where not? And, how do we fix that for our society to make people hungry for that?
It's really hard to be successful at anything if you don't feel good.
Right.
It's that simple. So, and for I'd say for men, let's say who are in their 40s, certainly in the 50s, it's really, really simple. You have a choice. You can just accept a slow decline in performance, and there's nothing wrong. Like, I think of like Joe Biden. Like, it's sad that the dude's like 80 something years old. Of course he's cognitively impaired. There's no shame in that. The dude's like done his best, right? And, political views aside, he's, but the guy's lost like 20 steps, right? And so you can either head down that path starting in your mid 40s or early 50s, or you can do something about it. And I unapologetically choose to do something about it. And there's a lot of things you can do about it, starting with, look, even before you consider testosterone, like lose weight, exercise. Now, testosterone makes those things way easier. Like, if you've got a healthy T level, you're going to burn fat faster. You're going to be more motivated to exercise. You're going to get better workouts. So it all kind of goes together. But, you got to do something about it. And what my goal and the state, like the website, this is actually the first place I've announced it. And by the time this airs, it should be live. It's camp4health.com, CAMP, the number 4 health.com. and you'll get to see basically the service we're rolling out. But you owe it to yourself to get tested if you don't feel good. The way our service works is you sign up. It is a subscription. If you're tested and you don't have low T, or you don't, you decide it's not for you at this point, we refund everything except the cost of testing. But otherwise, we ship you a box to get started. And the minimum you can sign up for is 3 months, because that's really about what it takes to kind of get your levels dialed in. We do another set of tests, blood tests at 10 weeks, and then kind of get you dialed in. It's super safe because we go it's subcutaneous. We do it at a really low starting dose. It's something I truly believe in. And one of the statistics that motivated me to kind of turn this into a publicly available service is, if you look at the numbers, and there's not great data on this, but for men over 40, it appears that less than 1% of men over 40 are on TRT today. I personally believe that 20 years from now, that's going to be like 50%. I think most men, it's not an expensive therapy. Yeah. Most men who are aging are going to end up on TRT. So what that says to me is there's a big opportunity to help educate people and get them. Now, my segment of customers are those who want the best, they want the best protocol, the best level of care. I'm maniacal about responsiveness. You email or text us with a question, you're probably going to hear back in minutes, if not seconds. That's the kind of service that I want for myself. And that's my segment of customers.
Well, what should